that isn't what I want to do. I want to come up like this and then go over to the other side. And it means I've got to shift my weight from this side to being on top to then being over. And as I shift over my weight, I've also got to put weight on my nose here of this part of my skateboard to lift the back truck up and get it over. So that's just what I'm struggling with at the minute, because I'm coming up, committing to there and then hanging up, and I'm not knocking it over, which is what I need to do.
Yeah, Dan.
That's not supposed to even be a hard trick. I used to do that all the time, but I'm just scared these days because I don't skate as much. And to be honest, this is a pretty sketchy place to skate. It's a DIY spot, which means skaters have just sourced the materials themselves and built it themselves. And you don't see too many of them about at this level, because they usually get found and smashed up before anything too epic gets built. This one's probably been going for about 3 years, and it's right next to this military base, or this Ministry of Defence housing, which is just behind me. And I think because this is a bit of a derelict land that's right next to the army people, no one else has really bothered with it. And it is just a huge space, and the floor is absolutely amazing. It's so smooth, which is why skaters have commandeered it. But anyway, I didn't bring you here for skateboarding. I brought you here because this place is absolutely lined with cherry plum trees. There's loads of them. So we've got a yellow one here, a pink and yellow variety. Let's watch Chris do this trick. Go for it. Are you okay? Chris has just gone to get his ladders from the car because there are some very, very ripe cherry plums up the top here that we can't quite reach. So hopefully with the ladders we might be able to get some of those plump purple ones up there. This place goes all the way back here. Those ones there.
Cherry plums are their own species rather than a hybrid. They're not native to the UK, but were introduced from Southeast Europe and Western Asia, and over time have become a really familiar part of our landscape. One of the fascinating things about cherry plum trees is how they can actually help us to trace the old planting lines of councils. When you see these lines of trees, it often marks the boundaries of former estates or green spaces of decades ago, and it's a little bit like a living map of urban development, showing us how towns and cities grew and changed over time. As with many UK cities, Sheffield was heavily bombed during World War II, and it had vast areas of inner city slums that it had to clear. So between the 1950s and the 1970s, they all underwent huge phases of council estate development. Places like Gleadless, Manor Top, Parsons Cross and Norfolk Park, these estates were all planted with soft landscaping. The Ministry of Defence family accommodation was typically situated in or near these growing suburbs, with a woodland or planted belt adjacent to the housing to provide a bit of green screening, which is why you see all of these cherry plum trees lined here. These plantings aren't unique to Sheffield. Cherry plums were actually planted in housing estates all across the UK, from London to Manchester and Birmingham and beyond. They were chosen to soften the stark, concrete-heavy landscapes of post-war industrialisation and bring a touch of nature and a little bit of colour back to these newly built communities. You'll find these trees in almost every UK city once you know what to look for, and alongside them often grow crabapples, rowan trees, damsons and sloes. These trees were largely ornamental, but they did serve a practical purpose as they were resilient and low maintenance and adaptable to these urban environments, making them perfect for city plantings. They also provided a little bit of foraging potential as well, even if that wasn't the primary reason for them. One of the reasons that cherry plum trees stand out, and a reason that I love them, is that they are among the first trees to flower, often blooming as early as February. They've got delicate white or pale pink blossoms with 5 petals, which are also edible. They make a lovely syrup for very early spring. The fruit itself does vary quite a bit. The colours change from deep purple to bright red, oranges and even yellow. Some cherry plums are sweet and juicy, while others can be much more tart. But half the fun of foraging for these fruits is that you never know exactly what you're going to get until you take that first bite. Right, it's actually the next day and I have to process the rest of these cherry plums that have gone a lovely deeper red colour now that they've all started ripening up. They're about this colour when I first harvested them, and they've gone this lovely darker red colour. And last night, I actually made a couple of preserves. I've got some cherry plum jam. This is my full jar, and then this is the jar I'm going to be eating over the next couple of weeks. And also, these are preserved in a sugar syrup. So these will see me through a few months until the retreat in September. Or actually, that is next month already. It's come around really quick. But anyway, if these don't all get eaten, which I know that they definitely will, these would store around for 6 months to a year. This is just served in a simple sugar syrup. And they were packed hot into hot jars, and then I heat sealed them in this very tall spaghetti strainer. And that just means that these will stay fresh for quite a few months. I'm pretty stoked to be having some lovely cherry plums that I can add into my desserts and sauces come next month. And this jam is gorgeous as well. Had a little try of this and it's really, really lovely. So I don't know what I'm going to do with these because, I'm not sure. I've already frozen some. I've frozen quite a few of these. Maybe I'll make a sauce, or perhaps a cordial. If I make a cordial, then I could use the pulp and blend it up and make that into a fruit leather, perhaps. I'm just going to start by washing these cherry plums. I'm taking off some of the stalks where I can see them, but I'm not going to be too precious about that because I'm going to run it through like a sieve anyway, so I can get all the pieces out in that process. I'm just taking out any of the ones that have gone bad inside here before I wash them. They have been in here overnight, so any that have got a little blemish or have been pierced do tend to go bad overnight. So if you are grouping these together in a big bowl or in your bag or something, I really wouldn't recommend leaving them more than a night because they can really end up spoiling very, very quickly, especially when they're all kind of packed together and the weight's kind of pressing in on them. It can just cause the little punctures to bruise a lot quicker, and they'll rot really, really quick. So yeah, do process them as quickly as possible. It can be a bit heartbreaking to lose your harvest just because you decided to leave it to the next day, but the next day was actually too late. And speaking from experience, I've done that far too many times. So I do try to process them as quickly as possible. They do store in the fridge though for about a week, so if they are of good condition and they're not bruised or blemished, they can store in the fridge for about a week, and if they're unripe, then even up to a couple of weeks. I've stored cherry plums in the fridge. Cherry plums have got this oval kind of shape to them. Some of them can be a lot more rounded, but this variety here is kind of like an oval droop shape. And inside, hang on, let me bite into one and show you. The cherry plums taste much more like a plum than a cherry. They're not a hybrid, they are just a type of plum. Very, very small plum. And they've got lovely little seeds or pits inside. And I actually use those for flavouring, so they've got a lovely kind of almond sort of flavour to them. So this is the shape of the pit. I'm just going to give these a wash now and get them in that pan. Look at those. Right, these are all nicely washed. Is that light going to be better? Is that light better? I think so. I'm just going to pour in enough water just to cover the fruit because they've got quite a lot of water in them anyway, the cherry plums, and I want to make the cordial fairly concentrated. So I think that should be enough. So I'm just going to let that cook down until the fruit's broken up, and then I'll strain it. So this is my book, The Forager's Almanac, and I feature cherry plum in the August section. My book's laid out month by month, so you can find it in August somewhere here, cherry plum. So I haven't told you how to ID the cherry plum tree if it's not in fruit, so let me tell you a little bit about it. A deciduous broadleaf tree reaching heights of 26 foot or 8 metres, the cherry plum has a dark grey bark which develops cracks and scars with age. The white flowers have 5 petals and emerge before the leaves. They are green and glossy and oval shaped with deep curved veins, a toothed serration and fine hairs on the underside. A green dye can be extracted from the leaves, while the blossom can be infused into milk for desserts, candied for decoration, or steeped into tea to reap the medicinal benefits. It's said to aid with stress, relieve anxiety, and halt irrational thoughts or fear of losing control. The round fruits are red, yellow, or plum coloured, are sweet and tasty and fresh, and are just as delicious when made into jams, chutneys, compotes, wines, and syrups. All of the skins are starting to pop and peel off now. It's just starting to break down. This smells absolutely gorgeous. I love the smell of cooked plums. I'm going to turn the gas right down and just let that simmer now for a bit and let all of those fruits break down. I didn't measure anything out for this, but I used approximately, I'd say, 1 kilo of fruit to around, I don't know, 700 or 750 grams of sugar. You can use 1-to-1. I tend to like my jams a little bit less sweet. If I'm making it where I'm not actually storing it for months and I'm making it, you know, just for the week or the fortnight ahead, then I only use around half the amount of sugar. I don't mind quite a runny sort of jam or compote type jam. But when I'm making it for people, this is going to be for my retreats next month. I make it so it definitely sets nicely and stores. So I added all of the whole cherry plums to a saucepan and I just let those simmer for around 20 minutes or until the fruits became really, really mushy and soft. And I saved all of the skins and the pits to dehydrate. Then I added in the sugar and turned up the heat to a medium or high sort of heat and let the jam reach 105 degrees. I've actually got this jam thermometer, or this really good cooking thermometer. All of the writings actually come off. I'm not sure if Chris has put this through the dishwasher. But jam is here, it's about 105 degrees. And I used to, you don't need one of these to make jam. You can just drop a little drop of jam onto a really cold saucepan that's been in the fridge or the freezer for 10 minutes. Let that cool for a couple of minutes and push it. And if that wrinkles up, then the jam's set. But I just find this is a much easier and more reliable method. Like, I don't have to test it. I just know once it's got to that temperature, then it's set and it's made a good jam. So this is actually really, really good. They're only about £6. I do recommend getting one. And you can pin it over the top of the saucepan and it stays in. It's quite good. So you let that reach 105 degrees and the mixture sort of thickens up and becomes much more of a sort of jam and set-in consistency. Just be careful not to burn the bottom of the pan, because if you do, it does leave quite a horrible flavour throughout the whole jam. Like, you really, really can taste like a burnt fruit flavour. So try not to burn the pan. You can keep giving it a stir just to make sure that the mixture's all moving around the bottom and not burning. But then you pour it into hot sterilised jars while the jam is hot. And I sterilise mine by washing them in hot soapy water, and then I put them in the oven for 10 minutes. And that will sterilise it. And these you can just boil for 10 minutes, these little rubber stops to sterilise those. And when I heat process them, I try to use these jars if I've got enough. And if you get the ones that have got like a little depressy button on them, you know that they've sealed properly. Right, let's see how this pulp is getting on. I popped that lid over the top because the fruit flies are just relentless this summer. I think it's because I'm bringing home so much fruit every single day. But I stewed this for around 20 minutes to half an hour. Then I used my potato masher to mash up as much of the flesh as possible, release that flesh away from the pits, and just release all of those juices. So this is what I'm left with. I'll pop this into a container to separate the seeds from, dehydrate the seeds, because I use those to make a kind of sort of almond flavouring, and then I'll use the flesh to grind up or blend up and make a fruit leather with. But look at the colour of this. Look at those juices. That is absolutely beautiful, like a ruby red. I'm just going to try it, get a spoon. Oh, that is delicious. It's got quite a lot of tartness to it, which I absolutely love. I'm a sucker for sour flavours, sweet and sour. But yeah, it's quite tart. I think I'm going to add a little bit of sugar to that, just to help it keep. And that'll be my cordial done. I'm just scraping off as much of the flesh as possible because I don't want to waste any. This is delicious. So I've got quite a lot of flesh there, and this is not to be wasted. This will be blended up and made into a fruit leather. But first I have to remove the seeds, and I'll just sit there probably tonight in front of a YouTube video and pick all those out. It'll take me around 45 minutes or so, but I'd rather that than at the start cut them all open and pull them out that way. I end up losing a lot more flesh. So yeah, I don't mind doing it this way. It takes a bit longer, but it's quite meditative. So yeah, this is quite a lot. I'd say that's, I don't know how much, but that is a heavy box of cherry plum flesh. So now all that's left is to boil this up with a little bit of sugar and bottle it up.
The best part of making your own cordial is that you can just add sugar to taste. So I'm just going to add in about that much to start with and see how it is. I quite like it tart, to be honest, but it will keep a lot better with some sugar in it. What I'll try to do here as well is reduce it down as much as possible, just so it fits into a smaller bottle and it's a lot more concentrated. Just because I haven't got infinite amounts of fridge space or shelf space.